Absolutely not. That's the firm response from the United States House of Representatives to Ghislaine Maxwell. List of demands. Chief among them, her request for immunity in exchange for testifying before Congress under a legally issued subpoena for her deposition at the Tallahassee prison on August 11th. After reportedly receiving limited immunity from Donald Trump's Department of Justice during recent meeting with Todd Blanche, Trump, former criminal defense attorney and now the DOJ's number who, two, Maxwell and her lawyer, David Oscar, left feeling encouraged. They believe they had secured Queen for a day immunity, meaning anything she disclosed during the session could not be used to prosecute her directly, while she could still be charged if independent evidence come to light. Immunity provides a significant layer of protection based on her statement in that meeting. So she walked away from the meeting essentially saying Trump's dangling paradox in front of me through European and Scottish connection and Congress, you have subpoena me to testify on August 11th. Well, it's going to be on my turn. But Congress responded loud and clear, no, it's not. We are not playing. We are not playing by your rules. We are the House of Representatives and we are not granting you immunity. I actually just did a video about her demands and predicted this exact scenario. Either she would not testify all, or she had tried to derail the process while pretending to cooperate. And now, right on cue, her attorney David Oscar has sent two letter to James Comey. James Comey, who chairs the House Oversight Committee, is now under pressure, even from within his own party, to move forward with Ghislaine Maxwell deposition. The public is not buying what Trump is trying to sell here. Credit the Democrats for acting quickly and locking the deposition before Speaker Mega Mike could adjourn Congress. As for Maxwell, she is out here making demands. Something I brought down in my last video. She basically said, "Here's are my condition. Congress meet them and would not testify. Excuse me, you are convicted sex trafficker. You do not get to dedicate the term. Sit down." Ghislaine Maxwell laid out a list of demands before she would agree to testify. First, she wanted to formal grant of immunity. Second, she refused to participate in the deposition at the Tallahassee Correctional Facility where she currently serving her sentence. Instead, she insists it be held at a location of her choosing. Third, she demands to receive all questions in advance. All questions, are you thinking we are mad? Claiming it's necessary to prepare adequately and ensure fairness. She wants no surprise. She wants no surprise, and finally she says the interview should only take place after the Supreme Court rules on position for contrary, as well as after she files a forthcoming habeas petition in the Southern District of New York. That petition, by the way, has not even been submitted yet, but when it is, she is expected to urge that her prosecution was unfair, partly on the basis of public statement made by Donald Trump. He called the absent file a hoax and accused Marine Comey, the late prosecutor, of being compromised due to her father allegation ties to absent. Maxwell will claim this constitute new evidence and that should be granted a new trial. In response to all of this, the House of Representatives issued a clear statement regarding her subpoena. Here's what they said. The Oversight Committee will respond to Ms. Maxwell, attorney shortly, but it will not consider granting her congressional immunity for testimony. See how simple that is. Trump warned, you do not hand out immunity to someone already convicted of sex trafficking. currently serving a 20-year sentence, especially when your own DOJ has labeled her a liar, unreliable, and completely unremorseful. And most importantly, when granting her immunity served no clear public benefit. No one, no one is calling for sit-down meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. What people are demanding is the release of action file, the over 300 gigabytes currently in custody and control of DOJ and FBI. That's what the focus should be. So, what might be in those files? That's the real question on our sister channel, Legal AF, Michael Wolf, Trump biographer and potential Epson feature biographer, share his perspective. Here's what he had to say. Play the script.
But at any rate, at one point, after Trump had been elected, I was sitting talking to Epstein, and he said, "Wait a minute, I got to show you something." And then he went into his safe, and he came out with photographs. They were Polaroids, I think, and he he kind of spread them out like playing cards, and it was Trump. I mean, I think there were a dozen of them, and it was Trump with girls of an uncertain age at Epstein's Palm Beach house, where all of the things that he would ultimately be accused of took place. And I remember very vividly 3 of them. There are 2 in which Trump is, the girls, topless girls, are sitting on Trump's lap. And then a 3rd in which he has a stain on the front of his pants. And the girls are kind of pointing at it, sort of bent over, laughing, covering
their mouths.
Yeah, exactly. And pointing, 3 or 4 girls. And those are the...
Let's bring in Harry Letman. Harry, you are a former senior federal prosecutor. You led the U.S. Attorney Office for the Western District of Pennsylvania, and you serve as top official at Main Justice. First, I want your reaction to Congress rejecting Ghislaine Maxwell's demand for immunity. She does not get to dictate terms to Congress. This was absolutely the right call in my view. I had loved to hear you take on that. And second, based on your experience, what's your assessment of what the Trump administration did when they granted her that immunity?
The right move, you'd expect to remember, and this is a Republican committee, but her lawyers' quote unquote demands was just a kind of just maneuver to basically say no. There's no way, whatever you would think about immunity, there's no way that they could give her the questions in advance. You don't give that to any witness. And 2, there's no way a habeas corpus motion that she's about to file, could take years. So it really was her way of saying, I'm not going to do it, but I'll put on conditions so that it'll make me seem. And I think they understand that that's the case. But we have this really weird dynamic because normally, no witness could be cheeky enough to say, I'll talk to you if you give me the questions in advance and the like. But their remedy, of course, is contempt, and that requires a filing to the Department of Justice and the Department of Justice's decision. And even if it's totally meritorious because she's refusing to comply and cooperate, it'll be a political decision in what serves Donald Trump's interests, whether they would go forward. But it really is getting, at this point, such a web they weave of, and if she is there, it's going to be, they have also asked, the Senate said, we want the transcript of your communications with the deputy last week. Is there a transcript? Was he there alone? It would be crazy if there weren't. But, if he's trying to just protect Trump and that's all he's thinking about, he wants to be maybe able to keep it close. She is going to have to talk to them in one form or another. And it just in general, the effort for her, you're right. She's had a kind of a soft, landing with Blanche and that 2-day meeting because they're hoping to get stuff from her, keep her, on their side. But I don't think that's how Congress is going to be, in part because I think Congress doesn't think that's how the American people are going to be. But what a weird dynamic here, because it's going to be potentially a divide, which we haven't had between what a congressional oversight committee wants to do and what the White House wants it to do, and whether the Department of Justice will greenlight a contempt, and the whole thing is just a unbelievable mess. And then of course she has to worry about, let's say they really are zeroing in on Trump. Does she lie? And, and there's no immunity from perjury. So it's a precarious situation for her, and doesn't matter who asks the questions, Democrats, Republicans, and the like. So the whole thing is just an incredible mess of politics and law. But the one thing is, I'm not surprised, and is the right thing to say, go take a hike and here's the subpoena. But we have seen people get away with various levels of resistance over the last few years. And if the word comes down, kind of whisper from Blanche, just don't do it and we'll take care of you. Then we'd be really in a stalemate and unlikely to learn anything.
Yeah, it seems like the deal was already quietly made just by the nature of that meeting. The fact that was granted immunity. As you pointed out, let's think it through. If she ends up invoking her Fifth Amendment rights or obstruct the congressional decision, the Congress refer the matter to DOJ, but the DOJ can now simply say, well, we found her cooperative, and just like that, the accountability fades.
They give her immunity. If she invokes the Fifth Amendment, they'll say, all right, fine, here's immunity, now talk. That they would do, yeah.
Right. So here's the big picture. If she abstracts and the matter gets referred, she is probably banking on the DOJ to protect her. And honestly, based on her demand and knowing how her lawyer operates, it seems like that's part of strategy. I may not like that the representatives here, but let's be real. He is killed criminal offense attorney, and this kind of maneuvering is exactly what those lawyers are trained for. From a legal standpoint, the more tangled he's become for Trump, the better it is for her. If she invokes the Fifth Amendment now, after already talking to Trump's former criminal defense attorney for 10 hours under immunity, that contrast will spark serious backlash. People are going to ask, why was she comfortable talking in a private setting but claiming up before Congress? Then there's Trump himself digging the hole deeper. Here's on record, even while on Air Force One, admitting that he is now absent recruited underage girl from Mar-a-Lago spa. He said that, and let's not forget, back in 2002, Trump called Epstein a great guy who likes women on younger side. The statement has aged like milk. So while I cannot confirm what's in those Epstein files, Michael Wolff mentioned if they seize material from the residence with a subpoena, it's like anything in a safe would have been collected. But really, Trump's biggest problem right now is not the past. It's the record he is currently building. From dangling paradigm to causing up the Ghislaine, he is making all the wrong moves, and she knows it. She has holding powerful card against the former president, which is why he is now looking increasingly compromised.
So you're really, I think that's really it. And a lot of people miss that. The worse it gets for Trump, powerful position Ghislaine Maxwell is in. She's the one person who could potentially save him by coming out with some kind of sanitized version of everything. It's either that or an avalanche of stuff against him. Of course, if she does, right? I mean, man, oh man, the drip of this stuff. We now have Epstein's ex-girlfriend saying thick as thieves. We have a former victim. We have Epstein's brother. This stuff, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to it, the pictures, but that's right. You got to imagine they would still be in the estate. She might know if they're still in the estate. So it almost gets to be a desperate thing that only she can not just save him, but give him some shot at a counter narrative. And that means that they really, and she knows they really need her. You know, remember, his lawyer, Blanche is his lawyer, and her lawyer. They're thick as thieves, you could say. They're very good buddies, and they may be looking to her, depending on how bad the stuff is there. And you know, we played on different tape. Bondi saying we're going to come out with it, and all of a sudden saying never mind. I think that she had to have got the command from on high. We don't want to be coming out with this. You know, it may be that they're really relying quite a bit on Maxwell, and they, on the one hand, want her to come out and say what they wanted to say. On the other hand, they can tell her they won't prosecute her for contempt, but the worse it gets for him, the more powerful she gets, although also the less credible she gets if she's, you know, so obvious, if she's A, alone, and B, so obviously looking to.
One thing that stand out to me, Harry, is how Donald Trump operates. He has his pattern of shaking down institutions like universities and medical companies. He starts small, takes a little, sees what he can get away with, and then just keeps taking. That same pattern is now being mirrored by Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted sex trafficker from inside a prison in Tallahassee. It's wild to watch her use the same manipulative tactics Trump once used with Epstein, mobsters, and shady figure he surrounded himself with back in the day. And how somehow she is managing to make the former president of the United States bend to her will. She is getting access to top government officials and was granted immunity faster than Trump dispatched FEMA to Texas during flood crisis. She knows exactly who she is dealing with. The Deputy Attorney General, one of the most powerful position in the DOJ, and conventionally Trump former criminal defense attorney, her lawyer, David Oscar. He is smart, secure, he is representing a truly terrible person, but he knows how to play the system. And if Ghislaine Maxwell can manipulate the US government from behind bars, it really makes you wonder what must this look like to foreign leaders like Putin. If this is how Trump handled pressure from convicted sex trafficker, what kind of leverage do world power think they have over him?
It's really true. I mean, this isn't trivial. One of the points that Democrats have made, look, we want a counterintelligence analysis of the risks here, because somebody has copies of those pictures. Imagine the harm they could do to the United States, right? You know, this is this mess is just, the tentacles of it are growing and proliferating, right? And it's going to stay that way.
If you were not guilty, they would be simple, straightforward, way to address all of this. But when you are culpable, it's easy to see how you get tangled in lies, contradiction, and ever growing web of deception. So we will leave it there. We have covered this thoroughly. Congress is absolutely making the right call here. The Republicans led oversight committee is correct. You do not grant immunity to an convicted sex trafficker who has shown zero remorse and has documented history of lying. Why not? Because giving her immunity only empowers more manipulation. Exactly what we are seeing now. The correct move is to reject and let the chip fall where they may. If she chooses to invoke the Fifth Amendment, then you consider your option. But her demands completely unacceptable. She does not get dictate the terms, submit question in advance, or act like she is some highly ranked official. She is not. She is convicted predator and the fact that she thinks she can make demands like this is beyond outrageous.